Remember, last title fight.
Oh!
No.
A few moments later.
Dude, don't be silly. Jump to Gilly.
Porier!
Yeah!
Mission failed. We'll get them next time.
Alright guys, it is the day after UFC 318. Overall, I have to say it was a decent card. Like, it did not disappoint. Yes, I know I made a video 10 days ago, a 10-minute in-depth breakdown about why UFC 318 is a terrible card, but that was on paper, man. The actual fights did not disappoint. There were a lot of finishes, and even the ones that weren't finishes, they were all pretty decent. My predictions, not amazing, 8-6, so, you know, recently, this is probably my worst prediction, because, you know, some of the recent events, I've been getting really good predictions, but of course 8-6, so no updates to the predictions leaderboard. Anyway, let's go through some of the fights. Okay, so the first one I'm going to talk about is this one, Bruno Ferreira versus Jackson McVeigh. Submission in the first round from Bruno Ferreira. To be honest, it was kind of expected because McVeigh was coming in on short notice in his debut fight in the UFC, so it was expected. But yeah, very good submission from Bruno Ferreira. I think he does need to step up in competition, obviously. You know, he does have 2 losses, and both of them were to decent competition. One was to Gregory Rodriguez, I think, and the other one was to, I think, Nursultan Ruziboyev. So the 2 opponents that he has faced that were good, he lost to, basically. So, you know, but you have to give him someone good now, because all of his other fights, he's got finishes. He's a finishing machine in the UFC. So yeah, you need to give him a little bit of an upgrade now. We want to really test him. I think he can really be a problem for a lot of the middleweight division. Next up, Ryan Spann versus Lucas Brzezinski. Really good submission from Ryan Spann in the first round. I think it was a guillotine or something. Was it a rear naked? I'm not sure. It was one of those submissions. The win is kind of tainted a little bit because it is against, you know, the worst fighter in the entire UFC, Lucas Brzezinski. If Lucas Brzezinski does not get cut now, bro, I don't know what the UFC are thinking. This guy is 9-7. He's had like 6 or 7 fights in the UFC, and he's only won one of them against Walter Walker. So yeah, definitely cut Lucas Brzezinski. Ryan Spann, he's too inconsistent. He can't really perform against high-level competition. I think his heavyweight debut was against Wilder Costa. Yeah, that kind of competition is way too high level for Ryan Spann. Just give Ryan Spann the NPCs that are unranked in the heavyweight division, and yeah, happy days. Next stop, Adam Foggy versus the Mogul himself, Islam Dulatov. And Dulatov gets the KO in the first round. He did not disappoint. A lot of people were having quite high expectations of him, and he delivered, man. First round KO over Adam Foggy. You know, it's not the most amazing competition, but he's going to work his way up in the welterweight division, hopefully. So yeah, I mean, I just had to mention this one because, you know, a lot of people were speculating, you know, whether Islam Dulatov was UFC worthy, and so far it looks like he is. Next one, Atiba Gauthier versus Robert Valentin. And the middleweight Ngannou strikes again. First round KO for Atiba Gauthier, as we expected. As I said, there is no, in my predictions video, there is no way that Gauthier is losing this fight. And he got the KO in the first round. See, look, if you've seen this picture as well, at the top, you know, Valentin was telling Atiba, look, you know, calm, let's go. And then he got knocked out 1 minute later. So yeah, nice one, well done for that. Robert Valentin, 11-6, he needs to get cut. Atiba Gauthier, I can see him being an issue for a lot of the unranked middleweights. He has rank potential, for sure. He has rank potential. He has crazy power. Like I said, he's basically the middleweight Ngannou. Also, bro, I have to say this, Atiba Gauthier has got the worst good English I've ever heard in my life, bro. Like, he can speak the language, but he's just so bad at speaking. Like, if you guys heard the post-fight interview, this is so random, by the way. In the post-fight interview, bro, this guy is like, he's just so like timid when he speaks. Like, he doesn't speak with confidence. Like, I could barely even understand what the hell he was saying, but it's clear that he can't speak the language. Anyway, alright, and next up, Marvin Vettori versus Brendan Allen. Like I said, kind of a matchup of NPCs, but to be fair, I didn't actually realize Brendan Allen actually has quite a strong personality, and he's also from Louisiana, so that was cool to see him on the card. And Brendan Allen did get the win, got the decision win, and this was fight of the night. First of all, I don't know why I picked Vettori to win, and second of all, I don't know how this got fight of the night over the main event, over Costa versus Copilov, over Holland versus Rodriguez. I don't know how that's happened, but yeah, man, good win from Brendan Allen. I think, to be honest, I think Marvin Vettori is kind of washed now. What's next for them? I think for Brendan Allen, because he just got a decent win. I think the loser of Jared Cannonier versus MVP, because that's happening at UFC 319. I think that would be a good fight for Brendan Allen. I think that's a fair matchup. And then for Marvin Vettori, he's ranked number 10. He just lost, so he has to fight down now, obviously. I think him versus Abus Magomedov, that would be a good fight. Abus hasn't fought in quite a while, I don't think. And he deserves a shot in the a chance at a higher ranked opponent, so that would be a good fight between Abus and Marvin Vettori. Next up, Michael Johnson versus Zell Huber, and Johnson gets the win by decision. Wow, I did not expect that. On the entire card, that was probably one of the fights I was most sure about, and Johnson gets the win against Zell Huber, who is a big prospect, man. So that's probably, kind of shut down the prospect aspect of Zell Huber for a while anyway, because you can't be losing to 39 or 40-year-old Michael Johnson, right? Now look, for Michael Johnson, he's such a hit and miss fighter. I think he's won his last 2 or 3, so I mean, it's looking, Michael Johnson's having a little bit of a resurgence, if I must say so myself. So give him someone higher up, man. I think, Michael Johnson, he's a decent fighter. He's still a decent fighter, and he just won a decision against one of the top prospects. It was a 29-28 for sure. It was close, but yeah, man, I think Johnson, good win for him. Zell Huber, he needs to go back to the drawing board. He needs to get maybe a few more non-ranked wins before he can get a chance at the rankings, because I do not think he's ready for that yet, to be honest. Next up, this one, man, Dan Ige versus Pitbull. First of all, I have to say this was a dull fight, man. There was not really any big moments in this fight at all. And I have to say, I'm very disappointed with Pitbull, man. I thought, from being such a dominant champion in Bellator, that he was going to at least be able to be a good, solid, ranked opponent in the featherweight division. And he just is not that. He barely won against Daniel Ige, bro. The same Dan Ige who has no good wins in his entire career. Yeah, man, look. The first round, 10-9 Pitbull, that was a pretty nothing round. Like, it was the exact same with Yair versus Pitbull. The first round, they did nothing. Second round, a good initial output from Ige, I must say, but then obviously later on in the round, Pitbull lands better shots, more powerful shots, and then he gets a takedown with a little bit of ground and pound. So yeah, you have to give that round to Pitbull. And then round 3, Ige lands like a decent. I think these guys were kind of hyping up a little bit more. The commentators, they were like, "Oh, a big knee lands from Ige," and it was like a graze on the head. But yeah, then Ige actually gets a takedown. And at this point in time, Ige needed a finish, right? In the third round, Ige, he needed the finish, and he was going for it. I do think he was, throwing a lot into his punches. Yeah, man. Ige definitely did get some decent takedowns in this round. And Pitbull, I think Pitbull got a takedown in this round as well, but led to nothing. That was a 10-9 Ige round. It basically comes up to the first round, and I guess you could say Pitbull won that round. Look, Ige did surprise me, but he just didn't do enough. Pitbull, he just looked slow and disappointing. I mean, he got the win, but at what cost, man? It's Dan Ige at the end of the day. And, after the win, the coaches were lifting him up as if he had just beat Volkanovski. Yeah, instead he had just barely beaten Dan Ige. And then he didn't even get the post-fight interview, which, fair enough, I guess I can understand that. But what's next for them? Pitbull, he called out Aaron Pico. He is not getting the Aaron Pico fight. I'm sorry, mate. I think he should fight Josh Emmett. Josh Emmett's coming off a loss against, I think it was Lerone Murphy. So yeah, loss against Lerone Murphy, and then he's probably going to have to fight down in the rankings now. So him versus Pitbull, I do think that would be a good fight, where Pitbull might get slept, or I don't know. I don't even know how to predict that fight. And then for the other person, Daniel Ige, he's actually quite high ranked. He's number 11 ranked. I thought he was lower than that, but yeah, man, Dan Ige, I think he should fight Giga Jakadze or something like that. Maybe, yeah. Dan Ige versus Giga Jakadze, that's a fairly even fight, I would say. Next up, the featured fight on this card, Kevin Holland versus D-Rod, man, this fight annoyed me so much. Bro, listen, despite what I said in the last video, I will say I did want Kevin Holland to win this fight. I would say I'm a bit of a fan of Kevin Holland. And bro, he could have won this fight so easily, man. There were so many opportunities where he could have won this fight. Look, first round, good leg kicks from Holland, good use of range from Holland, which he should be using because he's like the flipping tallest and longest welterweight fighter on the whole roster, yeah. And you know, he did look, to be fair, he did look more locked in than usual. He wasn't, you know, speaking and talking to his opponent like he usually does. But I must say, D-Rod was not looking bad though, to be fair. You know, Holland, he was getting D-Rod quite a bit with that jab, but Rodriguez was landing a lot on the inside, which I do think that was a big mistake Holland made. It was a close round, I must say, yes, it was a close round. Same number of significant strikes, but I think Rodriguez's punches were more punishing. So I would say that first round was a 10-9 Rodriguez. Second round, Rodriguez looked very sharp. I think he had 2 knockdowns in that that round against Holland. And obviously he did have Rodriguez did have some control time and ground and pound against Kevin Holland. But then I think Holland kind of recovers, and then he gets a takedown off his own near the end of the round, and you know, it was a good display of will. I have to give it to Holland. It was a good display of will. That end of the round, it was a good comeback from Holland, but by that time Rodriguez had already done too much, especially with the 2 knockdowns from the round. So yeah, that was also a 10-9 for Rodriguez. And then round 3, Holland needed the finish, right? It was a good round, I must say. It was a very good round, very entertaining fight in general. Holland got the knockdown, right? He had Rodriguez hurt. They were both exhausted, and Holland almost latched up a few submissions as well. But near the end of the round, this was what just annoyed me so much. I think D-Rod reversed the position or something, and he had the mount, so he was just raining down kind of some little shots on Holland. Huge mistake from Holland. He gets up, yeah, he finally gets out the mount, yeah, but then immediately shoots for a takedown. Why do you shoot for a takedown if you've just been dominated in the grappling for the past 30 seconds? You're both exhausted, and it's not going to lead anywhere. You're probably not going to get a submission. You've already knocked him down in this round. Holland had knocked down Rodriguez in this round. All they had to do, because Holland got out of the mount. He got out of the mount. They both could have stood up, and Holland, there was a higher chance of him getting the finish from the feet than from the ground. He shot, and then he got flipping reversed again. And then, yeah, man, he should have just gone to the feet and gone for it. Instead, he just stayed on the ground, and he was already exhausted, so there was nothing more he could do. Decent fight, good performance from Rodriguez, but I'm sorry, bad fight IQ from Kevin Holland. Now we are living in 2025 where Daniel Rodriguez is a ranked welterweight fighter. Come on, bro. What's next for them, though? Kevin Holland was number 13 ranked, so I think it's back to the unranked fighters for him. Give him someone outside the rankings that deserves a shot at the rankings. And then obviously D-Rod's going to be number 13 ranked. I think D-Rod's on a 3-fight win streak now, so I mean, you kind of have to give him someone kind of decent around the rankings. You could give him a Gabriel Bonfim, to be fair. Like, Gabriel Bonfim just won last week against Wonder Boy, so maybe you could give him that, or you could give him like a Jeff Neal or one of these like kind of old... yeah, D-Rod is not going to get far in the rankings, I'm telling you guys this now. Next up, the co-main event. All I have to say, first of all, big shout out to Paulo Costa. He proved pretty much everyone wrong, and he had one of his best performances in his entire career. I have to say that, bro. He looked like that 2019 Paulo Costa, maybe even better, I'm not sure. This is a new version of him. We haven't seen this guy before, man. Look, round 1, because I think everyone was thinking Copilov was going to win this. Round 1, he comes out quickly. I mean, they both come out quickly, to be fair. Very immediately, good establishment of leg kicks from Costa. He was looking very sharp with those leg kicks, and just a lot of body shots from Costa. And then I think sometime during this round, Costa gets a knockdown. I actually do think he gets a knockdown of Copilov, and then knocks out his mouth guard, if I remember correctly. Amazing round from Costa. I remember sitting there, I was very surprised, man. I was low-key, you know, just bugging out, thinking, what kind of Costa is this? He was looking at the prime Costa, bro. And then, you know, at this time I was thinking, okay, he's looked amazing in this first round, but, you know, we're going to have to see how he holds up in the next round. Call me the flipping also, one thing I have to say, the corner of Copilov at the end of this round said that he was doing good and he was doing exactly what was needed. That's absolutely false. Fire whoever the hell that was in that corner. Anyway, round 2, again from Costa, punishing kicks to the body and legs. Phenomenal striking from Costa. And I think he also hit Copilov with a big shot that stumbled him. Overall, Costa just had very, very good output. But I will say, Kopilov's kicks, bro, those were rapid. It shows how fast he is, but he was just too scared to use them because, you know, Costa neutralized it. Costa, I think he just got him scared, to be honest. And, you know, at the end of the round, Copilov was becoming much more successful, but over the entire round, he basically got butchered. So that second round also went to Costa. And then finally, the third round, I would say this was a close round. Bro, Costa, I have to say, this guy throws everything into those punches and kicks, bro. Like, he was putting his whole body behind it. I think he did get a bit tired in that third round. He was definitely slowing down. Copilov, you know, was landing much more shots. It was a close round, but I would probably give it to Copilov, even though he did land less strikes. I will say that third round was probably Copilov's. So I said 29-28, but I can easily see 30-27. So what is next for these guys, right? If we look at the middleweight rankings, Costa was 13, Copilov was number 14. So for Copilov, he has to fight someone outside the rankings. I'm sorry, mate, you're not getting a bump up in competition after that. He's going to have to fight one of the unranked middleweight guys. And for Paulo Costa, man, this opens up a lot of opportunities for him. There are 2 big upcoming middleweight fights as well. 3 if you include the title one. But I'm talking about in terms of the rankings, there are 2 big middleweight fights coming up. Obviously, you have Bahalio versus Imamov, and then you have also you have Jared Cannonier and MVP as well, and then you have Dilidze versus Hernandez. I would say give Paulo Costa probably the winner or the loser of Dilidze versus Hernandez. Probably the winner. You know, I think he deserves it, man. Especially he's got big name value and he just had one of his best performances. So I think the winner of that fight or the loser of Cannonier versus MVP should fight Costa next. And finally, of course, the main event for the BMF title and Porier's last ever fight, Max Holloway versus Dustin Porier. Man, this was a good fight. I do think it is a little bit overrated. Like, people say this could be fight of the year. I do disagree with that, just because after the second round it did kind of die down a little bit, I must say. But let's go through the fights, right? First round, Holloway came out looking sharp, man. There wasn't much output from Porier, I must say. And Holloway gets a knockdown. Maybe even you could count it as 2 knockdowns, I'm not sure, but maybe 1 knockdown. But Holloway, the main part of the round is that he gets a knockdown, right? And over that entire round, there's more output and just sharp striking from Holloway, so he definitely takes that first round for me. Second round, you know, they come out and Holloway's looking quick and clean with his striking, I must say. And I think does he get another knockdown? I think he might get another. I think he might have got another knockdown in that second round as well, after like a big combo or something like that. I remember there was like an insane combo and he got a knockdown from it. Yeah, man, after that knockdown I was thinking, like, bro, this is it. Like, Porier is getting finished in his last ever fight in front of his home crowd. It's kind of peak. But then, out of nowhere, what an ending. Like, the ending of this round was insane, bro. What an ending to this round, I must say. Porier somehow comes back at the end of the round and lands a knockdown on Holloway. Yeah. And then he jumps the gilly. I have to say, I rate him for that. He jumps the gilly, of course. And then he's delivering some nasty elbows. And, I do think they actually went over the bell because of how loud the screaming was. So maybe a few of those shots shouldn't have happened. But if there were a few seconds left in that round, a few more seconds, he might have actually got the finish. I'm not even joking, bro. Like, I feel like he may have got the finish with those elbows. Those elbows were punishing, bro. Obviously, Holloway's got a good chin, but you never know. And then, it was a good end to the round, but I will say Max did take that round, in my opinion, bro. Listen, I think Max, I'm pretty sure I remember Max getting a knockdown off his own in that round as well. And just overall, over the entire round, yeah, I think people are a bit biased. They say that Porier got the second round. No, I think Holloway took the second round for sure. But it was a close round. Round number 3, Porier At this point I was thinking, bro, listen, Porier needs to finish because there's no way he's beating Holloway by decision with the difference in output of the two fighters, right? Holloway constantly throwing kicks and punches. Porier, he was throwing a lot, but he wasn't throwing as much, and he just would have got output. He just would have lost by decision via output. Do you get what I'm saying? Holloway had some nice combinations. This was probably the worst round so far in the fight, which says a lot because it was still a good round. But yeah, man, Porier definitely needed to finish by that point. But anything can happen in these fights, right? And so far at that point, it was a sick fight. Round number 4, it was fairly uneventful. Max just basically lands more, but Porier had more successful punches. I would give that round to Porier, but you can definitely give this to Max. You can definitely give this whole fight a 50-45 to Max, but I'll give this 4th round to Porier, but maybe I need to rewatch it. Last round. There's a few big shots landed, decent exchanges. Porier did low-key clinch up in that last 10 seconds, so he kind of robbed us of that moment. I don't want to say that because I think any of us would have done that, and also he was low-key getting pieced up in that last 10 seconds, so fair enough. But yeah, man, I just can't believe that there was no finish in this fight after the first 2 rounds where both fighters got knocked down multiple times. Overall, it was a pretty decent fight, I must say. It was obviously a good fight. It kind of went down a bit after round 2, but I do think this was a better fight than Vettori versus Allen. I don't know how that got the fight of the night, which is insane. What's next for them, though? Obviously, Poirier's quote-unquote retired. I think he's going to come back, and, I feel like he's going to come back, but I'm not too sure. These fighters, as soon as they leave, they realize how much of their life was dedicated to the sport, and they immediately want to come back. But for Max, he did call out Oliveira. Oliveira's number 3 ranked, Holloway's number 5 ranked, so I will say it is a good, pretty much free defense for his BMF belt, because he is much better than Oliveira in terms of the striking anyway. Obviously, in terms of jiu-jitsu and grappling, there's no competition, but I think Oliveira's washed at this point, to be honest. I'm not even gonna lie, I actually think he's washed. Don't get onto me for that. But yeah, man, so I think Max should fight Oliveira. Porier's retired, so there it is. So that's UFC 318 all wrapped up. Overall, I must say, on paper it wasn't amazing, but the fights did certainly deliver. There were a lot of finishes on this card. Again, my predictions weren't amazing, but hopefully we'll get better predictions for next week's Abu Dhabi card. I will make a video about that in a few days, but anyway, that's about it. You guys let me know your thoughts on this card. Was it good? Was it bad? Was it disappointing? Was it amazing? You guys tell me in the comment section down below. Please like, share, subscribe, turn the notifications on so you get notified every time I upload. And yeah, that's about it. Save.